Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of Positively Saturnine. In this episode, I'm going to analyze whether Daryl Harper was right giving Sachin Tendulkar out shoulder LBW in Adelaide in 1999. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, here is a thumbnail of the video of the dismissal posted by Cricket Australia. I've given the link in the description below. So you can take a look at it. Glenn McGrath was the bowler. Sachin Tendulkar was the batsman. It was, as the description suggests, it was a bizarre dismissal. All right. So let's move forward with that. So in this episode, I'm going to first look at the context in which the dismissal happened, and then I'm going to do my own analysis on whether Tendulkar was actually out or not, and then finally the verdict. All right. So, what was the context? Now, whenever teams play cricket overseas, there's always complaints from fans about umpiring, right? That's just true of cricket in general. Now, some sets of fans are more vociferous than others. Indian fans tend to be especially fierce about umpiring when India play overseas, and especially so when they play in Australia, right? And this has been going on since the era of Sunil Gavaskar and Dennis Lilly, and it was the case when India went to Australia in 1999, 2000 for the Border Gavaskar Trophy. But there were a couple of other factors that were at play. Yeah, in 1995, Australian umpire Daryl Harper had no-balled Muthaiya Muralidharan at the MCG test, and that created a pretty bad incident. And then in 1998, Ross Emerson no-balled Muthaiya Muralidharan in a one-day international against England, and that led to an ugly incident. And then just before India toured Australia in 1999, Pakistan played 3 tests, right? And in the test in Hobart, Australia were chasing a sizable fourth innings total, and Wasim Akram was sure that he had Justin Langer caught behind, but umpire Peter Parker did not give the decision, and it's a much talked about decision. Justin Langer and Adam Gilchrist played really well to take Australia across the finish line, and it's possible that decision might have cost Pakistan the test match. So it was in this context that the first test in Adelaide began. So Indian fans were primed for complaints about umpiring. And what happened in the first innings was Sachin Tendulkar was given caught at forward short leg of the bowling of Shane Warne. He was not happy when he was given out, and the commentators were doubtful about whether he had edged the ball or not. So there had already been the issue with Tendulkar when India started the second innings. And then the dismissal itself happened. So what happened was Glenn McGrath bowled a bouncer, and the ball kept low. Tendulkar instinctively ducked, and the ball hit his shoulder or arm and rolled down. And McGrath and the rest of the Australian team appealed, and Daryl Harper gave Tendulkar out. Now, the unique nature of the dismissal led to a lot of immediate outrage among Indian fans, right? And they weren't happy, right? And they were convinced that the ball was going to sail over the stumps. Now, had it been a simple thing like pitching outside leg or inside edge onto pad, fans might have just thought it was a bad LBW call, right? But again, the nature of this dismissal led to even more anger. All right, and I was one of those fans, right, who was angry, who was convinced that the ball was sailing over the stumps. Now, when I came to the US and I watched that dismissal on YouTube, especially from side on, I was not sure about my original opinion. I actually thought it was close, right? And the more I looked at the video, the more I thought that it was actually out, right? So I decided to actually do a simple analysis on whether the decision was correct or not. Now, you might say I have a lot of time to do this. Honestly, I don't, but it did not take a lot of time to come up with the analysis. And I just used print screen on my laptop and the crop tool on MS Microsoft Office to come up with what you're going to see. All right, so the analysis, right? So this is a screenshot from the video posted by Cricket Australia, right? What I did was I took frames like this, right? And the first frame I cut it here, right? Use the umpire as the reference, and that's where the second frame began. And then I cut the second frame here, where again using the umpire as the reference, and that's where the third frame began. And then finally, the third frame ended uh, at Sachin Tendulkar's foot. So I used him as the reference, and that's where the fourth frame began. And that's what you're going to see on the next in the next few seconds. All right. So I use this to keep some continuity, right, as I trace the trajectory of the ball. All right. So this is now this is frame 1, as I was saying, frame 2, frame 3, and frame 4. All right. So this is the composite frame that I used for my analysis. Now, if you see, right, the first 3 frames show that the ball is rising gently, right? But the fourth frame actually shows that the ball dips, right? Now, this what I happened, and one user on Reddit had mentioned this. I think what happened here, right, is the illusion is that the ball has dipped and it's clearly going to hit the stumps. But I think what happened is in this frame, the ball has hit Tendulkar and has started rolling down his arm and is on its way down onto the pitch. All right. So I think when you look at this, it's almost clear that it's crashing into the top third of the stumps, right? So I did not use this for the analysis. But before I move forward, we have to remember that this is what Daryl Harper would have seen, right? So he would have seen the ball hit Tendulkar, and at that instant, he would have seen it roll down, which could have influenced his decision. It's not unlike when a batter gets hit in front of leg stump, but they are walking across or falling over to off stump, right? In that instant, there's an illusion that the batter has actually been hit in front of middle stump, right? When you watch slow motion replays, you'll actually see that the impact happened before the batter fell over. So it's something like that. It's an illusion, but that's what the umpire sees. All right. But again, I'm not going to use this for the analysis. Instead, what we'll do is we'll use the first 3 frames to see if the ball was actually going to hit the stumps or sail over it. All right. So this is now the point, right? And I used just a simple straight line in Microsoft Office. And as you can see, if you use the first 3 frames, and I put the line under the ball because we want to see if the bottom of the ball is even clipping the stumps. So as you can see, if you use those 3 frames, the ball is clearly clipping the top of the stumps, right? I've not used the fourth frame. I've used only the first 3 frames, right? So again, a very simple analysis. Surprised no one did it given how much discussion it caused. And it could have been done in a much more professional way, but I think this shows that Daryl Harper was actually right in giving Sachin Tendulkar out. So now for the verdict, right? Was it a close decision? Yes, because again, my analysis, I'm sure, has a margin of error. It's not foolproof, and it's possible that the ball might have just missed the top of the bails, right? But at the same time, it's possible that it might have clipped the bail. So it was a close decision, right? No doubt about that. Was it a brave decision by Daryl Harper? Absolutely, because you look at the bowler involved, you look at the batsman involved, you look at it's a big series, and it's a unique kind of LBW. I don't think I've seen too many LBW decisions like this, right? So he did take a brave call in giving Tendulkar out right then and there. All right. Now, what if Sachin Tendulkar had called for DRS, right? I think based on my analysis, it would have stayed out with the on-field umpire's call, right? It really would have. Again, unless the error in my analysis is significant, I don't think this ball was sailing over the stumps, right? But really, the final question, right? The question that I think has persisted for more than a quarter of a century is: was it a howler? that caused so much outrage among Indian fans? And the answer is absolutely not. You just look at this simple analysis that I've done. You can argue that he should have given the benefit of the doubt to Sachin Tendulkar, but was it a terrible decision? No, I think it was a fair decision. And again, as I said, I think with DRS that decision was going to be upheld. All right. Um, in closing, right? So I think India were at the wrong end of decisions in that test series. And this is not me saying it. If you go on espncricinfo.com and look at the report after the Sydney test of 2000, it's right there. The report itself argues that India were at the receiving end of a few bad decisions, right? So that's I think that's fair to say. But I think this decision was not one of them. I think this decision was fair. I think it's just the nature of the decision caused a lot of outrage. I think the media fueled the outrage, and just um, no one ever corrected the record. So that's my view. And listen, when we talk about howlers, we need to have a little bit of perspective. If you look at the test that has been called the greatest of this century thus far, the Kolkata test of 2001, in a pivotal moment, Adam Gilchrist, who had scored a century in the Mumbai test, he comes out to bat, and he's given LBW by an Indian umpire, and the ball likely pitched outside leg stump, and he possibly inside edged it onto his pad. Now, I think that's much more of a howler than what we saw with Sachin Tendulkar. I think that was a pivotal moment in the match. It gave Harbhajan Singh a hat trick, and it might have shaved 50 to 100 runs off Australia's first innings total, which could have changed the match. But the point is, there are many, many such decisions in cricket. Sachin Tendulkar himself has gotten a couple of howlers. I just think this is the most controversial one, and I think there should be no controversy. I think this was out. It was just a bizarre and unfortunate way to get out. But I think it was out. So that's my take on the decision. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. Let me know if you think there's an error in my analysis. I'll be back with a different video. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.